When doing business with China, sometimes you're on the way up, and sometimes you're on the way down. And right now, in entertainment, at least for, studio companies and entertainment companies like Comcast and Disney, it's a story in each direction. I think you'll get what I mean if we just follow a few stories. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, hiss and foes, welcome to the Culture Casino!
Comcast Universal is about to do something pretty cool. They're going to open Universal Beijing. That's right, in the big city, the crown jewel of China, they managed to put their brand new theme park. They're spending $7.7 billion to spread around 7 different lands and over 30 attractions. Now, the attraction count's not huge compared to a lot of other theme parks here stateside, but it's just the beginning. You roll in the 2 resort hotels, and this is starting to flesh out as a real project. And again, Universal's first entry into China. I'm sure there will be many more because there are more planned. Now, Disney, on the other hand, has had its ups and downs with Shanghai Disney, and of course the first park that they had back when there was a different government system in Hong Kong, that was quite successful. Universal may be bigger. And there's a difference in these two companies in other ways as well, in their film projects. That's right. Universal is having no problems getting their films released in China with proper release dates. Disney, on the other hand, right now, as many of you know, is struggling just to get an animated film like Luca to the marketplace, which it recently did. Of course, there's still no actual release date for Black Widow. There's probably none forthcoming for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and there will never be a release for the Eternals in China. There's a whole lot of reasons for that, most of them very political, a lot of them based on just the statements of the people that are involved. Say the wrong thing in China, and your film just won't be here. Say what you will about the box office performance of Shang-Chi over its opening weekend, which it did open pretty big, but it returned to the mean as expected with the same 67% fall off Friday to Friday that was expected the second weekend. Which means it's returning to the mean and falling right in the middle of the projected window, exactly where we all expected it to be. Which means that at the end of its theatrical run, it will likely disappoint, at least the studio. Many people have found the film enjoyable to watch, and I think that's fantastic. But its performance at the box office, while maybe not necessarily an outright flop, will be defined as very much underperforming. I don't think it was something that they could escape from. And it's changed Disney's position on the way they're doing theatrical releases for the rest of the year. They want to maximize their revenue, and they don't want to get sued anymore, which means all future contracts are going to be really tough for movie stars in the future and their agents, because Disney's going to not allow for any hint at exclusive theatrical release with these films. They just make too much money by allowing for their release on the streaming service. They also probably get some subscriptions out of it, although the churn rate for Disney Plus is quite high in the United States. Now, 25% of the revenue that you would have collected out of China, which may have been $200 million, is nothing to sneeze at. You could definitely use that $50 million that you would collect if you're Disney, or maybe 75 million and maybe 100, hard to say, but the best you can hope for out of China is a 50-50 split. Now, back on September 2nd and then updated on September 8th, we have an article from CNBC with the writer Sarah Whitten weighing in on why Shang-Chi doesn't have a release date in China, and this chart shows why it's a big deal. At least that's the headline that was crafted here. There's some very interesting statistics that come along with this article, including this bullet point. Since 2013, Marvel movies have consistently made between 10 and 20% of their box office sales in China. That's fairly significant, and towards the end of the run, it was closer to 20%, almost always. In fact, the film Endgame actually collected 22% of its total gross revenues from China. Well, at least from the box office. Again, revenues are shared a little differently in China. You're a 50-50 partner with the government. Now, there is a lot of hemming and hawing or hedging when it comes to this article from CNBC, because it specifically said that while Black Widow was granted permission to be shown in the country, there's no release date. Any release date that it would have had would have aligned with the Chinese centenary, which is the celebration of the takeover of the Communist Party in China. They even go to an expert, or at least somebody they consider an expert, when it comes to one of the reasons why we may never see a Black Widow release, and they point to piracy in this quote. Having near perfect pirate copies of this major motion picture floating around is never good for business, and understandably a source of concern going forward for the entire movie industry. Well, that's true, except that they've never been able to prove any of that. And while Shang-Chi, a film that was specifically made for a Chinese audience, is never going to get a China release date, a film like Eternals was probably not going to get one either, for more than a few reasons, and only one of them being the director and her statements previously. It seems like Simu Liu, the primary actor in Shang-Chi, also said some remarks that the Chinese did not take very kindly to. Be that as it may, right now you have a tale of two companies, as I mentioned before. Universal still on the way up, and Disney seemingly on the way down, at least when it comes to the Chinese government and their interactivity with it and their future profitability. China is always an interesting bet. They will always do whatever they can to extract your institutional knowledge so that you can grow, or so they can grow. Your growth is somewhat hampered because it's very controlled. Once they're done getting what they need from you, you become a less valuable partner. Disney currently has 2 theme parks in China. How valuable those will be over the coming years will depend on a lot of different things. And to that end, Disney says the rest of its 2021 slate of movies will have an exclusive theatrical release. This is not surprising. It's going to include The Eternals, The Last Duel, Encanto, and West Side Story. There was also one that was a bit of a surprise to me. Matt Vaughn's The Kingsman, which is the origin story for the organization, and something I've been looking forward to for quite a while, much like I was looking forward to The Protégé, which many people agree is a pretty good film. All of this is coming on the heels of some very unflattering articles run by some of the bigger news organizations, including the AP. More specifically, this one that says broadcasters urged to cancel plans to cover the Beijing Olympics. That's a pretty big deal. You're going to have back-to-back Olympics with problems. The Olympics in Japan did not go very well, at least not from a rating standpoint, and NBC with Peacock was struggling and scrambling to provide make goods to the advertisers because they were frustrated at the poor audience turnout. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. They lost the habit, number one. There was a bunch of political baloney sausage that was inserted that nobody wants involved in any of these things, in particular something that represents your country. And finally, a populace in Japan that was really hesitant to have the games there at all in the face of a global crisis. And with all the fear going around because of this, being driven by some of the very people that are part of these networks that are covering the games, is that surprising? I don't think so. Of course, the major concern here is all of the problems with the human rights violations that China continually gets caught being involved in. Of course, we've covered it many times on this channel that we have many corporations around the world that still continue to use forced labor, and coverage around the Uyghur Muslims, and the coverage around mutilations, forced sterilizations, and other mandatory practices that are required for survival in China at times for different ethnic groups. So with things going so well for Comcast, Universal, NBC's in there too, guys, do you think they'll pull back from their Olympic coverage after this $7.7 billion expenditure of a theme park? After having a rough quarter as it was anyway? Time will tell. Anyway, what are your thoughts? I thought it would be an interesting set of stories to cover, all this news coming out of China, all of this good and bad news coming out of China, and all of these companies still tied up there in such an inconvenient way. I am interested in your comments below. Also, I will end this video the same way that I always do. Support independent creators, the people out there that are working to give you information on a regular basis from various different sources, some more reputable than others at times, and at least giving you more things to think about than you would normally find on the things that are promoted primarily on YouTube, which are mainstream media content. So give your favorite creator a like, make sure you're subscribed, turn on that bell for notifications so you don't miss anything, and share out the occasional video. It really does help. Be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene, and you should have been doing it for your entire life. And until next time, bye.
Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.